This is my box turtle, Janice. She's a bit clumsy. It's been a long time since I've seen her. That's because I've been out of the country for about 5 years now. During that time, Janice was taken care of by my sister. She was always in pretty basic setups. But now that I'm back and passionate about natural bioactive terrariums, it's time to make Janice a beautiful new home. My goal is to emulate her natural habitat, and to do that, I'll need to go exploring in the woods for natural materials. It's so nice to live in the woods again, as opposed to being in the desert where I was for the past 2 years. So now I have so many plants and sticks and rocks for building terrariums, and not to mention the natural inspiration of walking outside. Here's some nice moss. I want this to sort of be like a forest floor terrarium, so I want to use lots of mosses, some ferns, and that sort of thing. So this is just what I'm looking for. Oh, it's a big rock. That one might be just to enjoy out here.
What is that?
Little snack for Janice. After waking up sleepy Janice and giving her her snack, it was time to get to work. I started with a layer of substrate, which is just a mixture of topsoil and sand from outside. I sloped it up towards the bag to add depth. Then I introduced the focal point, this big rock I found covered in moss. It does take up quite a big portion of the terrarium, but it's worth it. Then I added a little mossy stump in the corner. That would be cool to make Janice's water dish out of clay from the river, although I'd later have to put in a plastic dish. I kind of feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Let's see how it looks with plants in there, and we'll go from there. It's amazing how much a terrarium changes with a few plants. Believe it or not, this was the smallest fern I could find. It took a bit of finagling, but eventually I got things looking a bit more cohesive. I did some more work on the water dish, lining it with this fallen tree branch and some stones from the river. I noticed that the top section of the terrarium looked a bit too empty, so I tried out some pieces of driftwood. I liked this piece, but wasn't quite sure how to put it. Eventually I found the right position, but then this area became too crowded, so I had to move the mossy log back further to the corner. That was a little bit of a pain, but after that, the terrarium was starting to look pretty nice. But I figured it needed some more plants on that side of the terrarium. I made sure Janice had a nice spot to sleep under the fern, and then I had an idea. It would be nice if she could access the back half of the terrarium as well. It would be the perfect spot for her to bask in her heat lamp. But for her to get up there, I'd need to build her a staircase, and for that, I'll be using some rocks. Now, I did get a little bit sidetracked and ended up decorating all sorts of places of the terrarium with an assortment of rocks, stones, and pebbles, but eventually I did find my way around to building the staircase. At the top of the stairs is a little stone pathway leading right to Janice's basking rock. I thought this would be perfect, and that Janice would have absolutely no problem getting up and down. However, I was very wrong, but you'll have to see that later, because now it's time to find some bugs. You see, for this terrarium to be bioactive, I need some insects, like isopods and millipedes, things that will clean up after Janice. I looked under a plethora of rocks and logs, but unfortunately, I'm not having much luck finding bugs out here in the winter time. However, I'm not one to quit, so I continued my search. And then I did find something. It was no isopod, but it was a cute little redback salamander. Maybe someday I'll make a terrarium for a salamander, but for now the bug hunt continues.
Oops. Oh no.
I did find one tiny millipede, and another salamander, and eventually some isopods, making this bug hunt a success. get a good look at how the terrarium is now, because once I put in Janice, it'll be clear that I'm gonna need to make a few changes, and the terrarium won't look quite like this by the time we're done. I guess that's just how life is sometimes. You expect things to go a certain way, but once you actually get there, it doesn't quite work out. So then you have to start over and make some changes. Sometimes you change what's around you, sometimes you have to change yourself for the better. After being in pretty minimal setups for the majority of her life, Janice seemed pretty excited to be entering a lush green environment. As soon as I put her in, she looked around and started exploring. I would like to be able to make these videos for you full time, but since it's not very profitable yet, I have to do a lot of other things too. You can help me to achieve that goal by doing something very simple. Just leave a like on the video, and if you really like it, watch another one of my videos after this one. But this one's not over yet, because once I turned on Janice's heat lamp, she wanted to go warm in the light. But for some reason, she didn't think my staircase would be a good way to get there. Instead, she wanted to climb. She scaled the mossy rock and eventually made it to her basking stone. However, instead of staying there, she decided to climb on top of the fern and pretty much destroy it. I did mention before that Janice is a bit of a clumsy turtle. Janice's lack of coordination and judgment were beginning to be an issue in this terrarium. So something was going to have to change. I began the demolition by removing the staircase that Janice didn't want to use and rescuing the fern she'd nearly squished to death. Seemed like Janice wanted to go up on the right side of the terrarium, so I put her new ramp over there, and it is a ramp instead of a staircase. I also put in some baby ferns, which hopefully Janice won't destroy. Then I put in some really nice carpet moss. This stuff feels like a pillow. Which is great, because if Janice decides to throw herself from the stones, she'll at least have a soft place to land. You never really think of turtles as being so athletic. Perhaps during my time away, Janice was secretly practicing aerobics, but probably not. Anyway, I realized this rock looked pretty unnatural here, so I decided it could make for a really good cave. I hope that Janice will sleep in the cave, instead of digging up all the plants. And even if she doesn't, it still looks pretty cool. At this point, I realized I needed a basking stone that matched a little bit better with the other rocks. I used my insanely strong muscles to break this rock to fill in the missing gaps. Then it was just a matter of putting in the finishing touches. Janice now has a beautiful cave, some nice soft carpet moss, and a steady slope for her to easily access her basking stone. Version 2 of Janice's forest floor terrarium was complete. Well, almost. It wouldn't be complete without Janice. I was happy to see Janice actually using the path I'd made her, instead of acting like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. As you've seen, I've been having trouble finding bugs outside, so you might be wondering what I've been feeding Janice. Well, I've been feeding her this box-trutle food. She seems to really enjoy it, but I do try to vary up her diet with some live insects when I can find them, and some other box-turtle food, which is basically a gelatinous blob of mushed up vegetables. I'll leave affiliate links for the food in the description for those who are interested. Anyway, before you go and watch another one of my fantastic videos, let me know if you preferred version 2 or version 1. I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses. Anyway, that's it for today. God bless.